Hello, campers. Rise and shine.
Behind the yellow coats and holiday camp smiles lies a story very few fans know. These are the secrets that made Hi-de-Hi Britain's most nostalgic comedy. Fact 1. Writers Jimmy Perry and David Croft didn't create Hi-de-Hi out of thin air. Perry had worked as a redcoat at Butlins holiday camps in the 1950s. He based many of the characters on real people he met there. Gladys Pugh was inspired by a real Welsh announcer with the same charm. Ted Bovis came from every hustling comic Perry had seen in the camps. Even the camp manager Geoffrey Fairbrother came from reality. Perry knew the snobbery and class divides of British holiday culture firsthand. He poured all of it into the show. The authenticity is why it felt so real. Viewers recognised their own experiences in Maplins. Families who'd stayed in chalets laughed the loudest. Every storyline echoed something Perry had seen on the job. David Croft sharpened the humour and timing. Together they built comedy on memory and truth. The show became a time capsule of post-war Britain. It wasn't just funny, it was familiar. Fans said watching it felt like stepping back in time. That nostalgia made it a hit across generations. Even holiday camp staff praised its accuracy. Hi-de-Hi wasn't just a sitcom. It was British working-class history in disguise. And that's why it still resonates decades later. It turned everyday memories into television gold. Fact 2.
Start doing new things. Don't stop me now. I'm cooking with gas.
To capture authenticity, the actors weren't treated like stars. During filming, they stayed in basic chalets near the set. No luxury dressing rooms, no fancy catering. Producers wanted them to feel like real Maplins staff. Meals were served in a canteen-style hall. Cast members even helped carry props between scenes. Paul Shane, who played Ted, loved the experience. He said it bonded the cast instantly. Ruth Maddock, as Gladys, admitted it was a shock at first. Living in cramped conditions mirrored their characters' lives. It gave performances a grounded, natural energy. The sense of camaraderie was real. Even off camera, they greeted each other with Hi-de-Hi. Crew members noticed the difference in chemistry. It was part acting, part lived experience. By the end of filming, the set felt like a real holiday camp. Some actors said they almost forgot it was fake. That method approach made the comedy warmer. The audience could feel the genuine connection, and it proved that sometimes living the story makes it shine brighter on screen. Fans later said the realism was part of the magic. It blurred the line between performance and reality, and that's what made Maplins come alive. Fact 3.
Unfortunately, this has to be done on the same night as Flora Bright.
Due to an admin cocker.
The bright yellow coats weren't just costumes. They became a symbol of British television. Designers chose yellow to stand out on the dull 1980s cameras. It made every character pop against the muted sets. The coats were deliberately uncomfortable to mimic real uniforms. Cast members often sweated under studio lights. Ruth Maddock joked they smelled like fear and fabric softener. When the show became a hit, fans started copying the look. Holiday camps even reported guests arriving in homemade yellow coats. BBC received requests to sell official merchandise. Collectors still pay high prices for original jackets today. The colour became synonymous with fun and nostalgia. It was branding before TV merchandising became huge. Actors said putting the coat on felt like stepping into character. It was both a costume and a badge of honour. Every coat carried the weight of British comedy history, simple design, massive cultural impact. Even decades later, the sight of yellow sparks memories. It's proof that sometimes the smallest detail becomes legendary. Fans wore them proudly at conventions and reunions. Hi-de-Hi didn't just create characters, it created an icon you could wear, and that icon still shines bright. Fact 4.
Perhaps you'd like to do it topless.
I will if you will. Or are you too modest?
If I had you a figure, it wouldn't bother me. Who wants to look at an ironing board?
Most of Hi-de-Hi was light and cheerful, but one storyline almost crossed into drama. Writers created an episode about a lonely holidaymaker. Instead of laughs, it focused on isolation and regret. The BBC panicked after the first cut. Executives said it was too depressing for a comedy. Jimmy Perry argued it reflected real life. Holiday camps weren't always pure joy. Some guests came to escape heartbreak and loss. He insisted comedy needed truth to stay honest. The episode aired with only minor edits. Fans were surprised and moved. Letters praised the show for balancing humour with heart. It proved the series wasn't afraid to get real. Cast members called it their most meaningful episode. Even today, it stands out as a tonal shift. A reminder that nostalgia isn't always rosy, and that even comedy can make you cry. High showed that laughter and sadness live side by side. Audiences said it made the show more human. The risk paid off in critical praise, and it cemented the show's depth behind the jokes. Sometimes the bravest comedy makes you think. Fact 5.
She's an old stager, and she had a lot of experience, haven't you, Sylvia?
Yes, Gladys, but not quite as much as you.
Unlike many sitcoms, Hi-de-Hi didn't fizzle out. Jimmy Perry and David Croft planned the ending early. They wanted the show to have a proper farewell. The last episode saw Maplin's closing its doors for good. It was both a plot point and a metaphor. By the 1980s, the golden age of holiday camps was fading. Families preferred package holidays abroad. The writers used that cultural shift to give the show weight. Cast members were emotional filming the final scenes. Ruth Maddock admitted she cried in her chalet that night. Paul Shane said it felt like losing a family. The audience felt it too. Ratings spiked for the finale. Fans said it gave closure without being sentimental. It was a goodbye to more than characters. It was to an era. The writers ended on their own terms. No dragging the show past its prime, and it cemented Hi-de-Hi as a classic with dignity. A proper ending for Britain's most nostalgic comedy. Sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to wave goodbye, and Maplin's waved in style. That planned farewell gave it timelessness. Fact 6.
What is comedy?
Making people laugh.
Paul Shane wasn't the original choice for Ted Bovis. Producers initially wanted a younger, slicker comedian. But during auditions, Shane's warmth and cheeky charm stood out. He turned Ted from a hustler into a lovable rogue. Writers immediately began rewriting scripts around his delivery. His natural timing elevated every scene. Shane drew on his own working-class roots for authenticity. He had actually worked as a miner before becoming an entertainer. That grit gave Ted a relatable edge. Viewers saw a man hustling not out of greed, but survival. Paul Shane later called Ted his most personal role. Without him, the show's heart would have been weaker. His chemistry with Ruth Maddock made their dynamic iconic. The BBC credited him for anchoring the series. Fans adored his winks to the camera and sly jokes. He turned small gags into legendary moments. Shane became synonymous with British comedy because of it. When he passed away, tributes poured in nationwide. Hi-de-Hi wasn't just lucky to have him, it needed him. And British TV gained a classic character because of it. Even today, Ted remains one of comedy's most charming hustlers. His casting proved the right actor can change everything. Fact 7.
So that's what you want, is it? A sordid little affair in some out-of-the-way hotel bedroom?
Yes.
Ruth Maddock became the glamorous, flirtatious heart of Maplin's, but she nearly turned the part down. At the time, she was focused on theatre and musicals. She worried TV comedy would hurt her stage reputation. Jimmy Perry personally called her to convince her. He promised Gladys would be a queen of the camp. Maddock eventually agreed and changed TV history. Her mix of warmth and authority made Gladys unforgettable. She created a character who could be bossy and lovable at once. Off-screen, she brought energy that lifted the entire cast. Her Welsh accent became iconic. Fans still quote her Hi-de-Hi greeting decades later. Maddock later admitted it became the role of her life. It opened doors to countless other projects, but nothing matched the love she received as Gladys. She once said fans treated her like family. Producers said losing her would have sunk the show. The part was written for her, even before she knew it. Sometimes destiny comes with a yellow coat. And Ruth Maddock wore it perfectly. Her voice alone could light up the set. Without her, Maplin's would have been a much duller place. Her casting was pure serendipity and pure magic. Fact 8.
You ought to get away from this place for an evening. There's a marvellous film on at the Regal.
Is there?
Or we could go and get drunk for the evening.
By the early 80s, traditional British ensemble sitcoms were fading. Audiences were shifting toward alternative comedy. Hi-de-Hi reversed that trend almost overnight. Its nostalgic setting and classic farce style drew huge numbers. Critics predicted it would feel outdated. Instead, it became a cultural comfort blanket. It reminded viewers of a disappearing Britain. The mix of heart and humour struck a nerve. Other networks scrambled to revive similar formats. Shows like You Rang, My Lord followed in its footsteps. Hi-de-Hi proved there was still a place for warm, character-driven comedy. It balanced nostalgia without feeling stale. Its success kept traditional sitcoms alive for another decade. Without it, the landscape of British TV comedy might have shifted faster. The show became a bridge between eras. It honoured the past while entertaining the present. And it reminded everyone that good writing outlasts trends. Hi-de-Hi wasn't just nostalgic, it was essential. Sometimes looking back saves the future. Maplin's gave audiences more than laughs. It gave them belonging. It showed that sincerity could still win ratings. And it made history by saving history in sitcom form. Fact 9. Live studio audiences loved Hi-de-Hi tapings. Warm-up acts set the tone before filming began. Paul Shane often improvised with the crowd. Ruth Maddock would greet fans in character as Gladys. The audience responded like they were at a real holiday camp. Some episodes felt like live theatre. Fans queued for hours to get tickets. BBC staff said the laughter was like a wave hitting the set. Writers tested jokes during these warm-ups. If a gag didn't land, they tweaked it on the spot. The energy bled into the performances. Actors fed off the live reactions. Tony Webb, the floor manager, called it electric every week. Many say the audience became part of the cast. You can still hear genuine, unforced laughter on the recordings. It gave the show a unique warmth no canned track could match. Those nights in the studio felt like real camp entertainment. Hi-de-Hi blurred the line between sitcom and stage show, and the audience loved every minute of it. It was more than TV, it was an experience. Fans left the studio with sore cheeks from laughing. The live energy made Maplin's truly come alive. Fact 10. Fans didn't just watch Hi-de-Hi, they visited it. The show was filmed at a real holiday camp in Kent. After it aired, the location became a tourist hotspot. Visitors posed in front of the chalets and dining hall. Some even dressed up as yellowcoats for photos. The camp embraced the attention, selling souvenirs. Tours were organised for superfans. Cast members occasionally appeared for meet and greets. The BBC was surprised at the response. What was just a filming location became a pilgrimage site. Even after the camp closed, fans still visited. Parts of the set were salvaged and auctioned. Collectors paid thousands for original props. Hi-de-Hi had turned fiction into reality. The location remains a piece of British TV history. Fans still share stories of visiting Maplin's online. For many, it wasn't just a show. It was a memory brought to life. The line between nostalgia and reality blurred forever. Maplin's stopped being pretend and became part of Britain's cultural landscape. Even decades later, the site holds a special magic. It proved how deeply the show touched people, and that nostalgia can build real-world landmarks. Bonus fact. Despite the show's success, Jimmy Perry and David Croft nearly walked away. The BBC pressured them to speed up production and write more episodes per year. Perry warned it would burn out the camp. Croft was already juggling other hit shows. The stress began to show in late-night writing sessions. They feared the quality would dip. At one point, they considered handing the show to a new team. The cast begged them to stay. Paul Shane said without them, "It won't be Maplin's, it'll be nothing." the BBC eventually backed down on their demands. Perry and Croft slowed the pace to maintain quality. That decision saved the series from overexposure. Every script continued to carry their signature wit. Fans never suspected the near collapse behind the scenes. The show's tone remained consistent to the very end. Perry later admitted it was the closest I've come to quitting TV. Croft said it taught him the value of creative control. Hi survived because its creators fought for it. Without that stand, nostalgia might have turned into fatigue. Sometimes saving a show means saying no. And Maplin stayed golden because of it. Even behind the laughs, the stakes were serious, and the writer's loyalty kept the magic alive.